Welcome back. This is CN2 Sports. We recently caught up with Jimbo, a retired NFL referee, and I'm excited to catch back up with him and ask him some more questions. So, like I said, I have a list of questions from friends that we gathered together. So we'll start off with, the first one we'll do is, did certain coaches or players that maybe had been in the league for a long time, did they ever get kind of leeway? Did you sway in one way or the other if you became friends with them throughout the time you worked?
You become friends with them, but there is no swaying.
So it's fair and square, fair and square.
It's just business. Here's the thing, when you're in officiating, it's just like playing and coaching. If you don't do your job, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, there are guys who are released every year.
Who are your most vocal or entertaining players that you've officiated? Is there anyone that just pops out that was always just very entertaining or vocal on the field or the court?
First year in the league was in '99, and I think that was Dan Marino's last year. And I always thought it was kind of cool because I had a game in Miami, and he got real mad at me because I didn't call a pass interference call.
Yeah.
And he came running down the field screaming at me. And the only thing I was thinking, that's just so cool that Dan Marino's running down the field yelling at me. This is Dan Marino, you know. So I always tried to find the local guys.
Yeah.
Chris Hope, Clowney, Sheldon Brown. Sheldon and I, we had a good relationship. And I remember I called a pass interference call on him one time when he was with the Browns, and he looked at me and said, "Homeboy, I can't believe you called that." I said, "Sheldon, you grabbed his arm. I got to call that. That's my job."
Yeah,
you know?
That's so funny. I've had an opportunity to get to know Sheldon a little bit, and he's awesome.
He's a good guy.
He really is. Have you ever been hit by a player during the game?
Yep, I was in Denver on a Monday night game, and we had a long pass play, and the receiver caught it, cut across the field, and I was in the middle of the field. I was a back judge, and a player named Dre Bly ran up my back, hit me, and it hit me so violently that it popped my hamstring off the bone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was the end of my season that year, and that was like early October.
Wow.
I knew I was hurt pretty bad. I was out there laying down, face down, and the trainers and stuff come out. And they were looking at me and they said, "Look, we're going to have to get a cart to get you out of here. This is Monday Night Football." I said, "No, you can't get a cart." And they said, "Why not?" I said, "Because my wife and daughter are at home watching this. They see me get on a cart, they know I'm really hurt bad."
Yeah.
And I said, "I'll get off the field, just help me get off the field." So yeah, it ended up being torn hamstring, torn completely off the bone.
Oh my gosh, Jimbo.
I was able to recover and come back the next year.
I'm glad you got back.
I am too.
That's a hit, though. You know.
I never really ran quite the same after that injury, though. But
what about the hardest call that you've ever made during a game? That you just, did something ever stick out in your mind that you're like, God, that was a hard call, but it was the right one?
Because I was a rookie on a veteran crew in the NFL, my very first game in the NFL was a Monday night game. It was
you had to be nervous.
It was Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and this was the first game back in Cleveland after Cleveland, you know, the Browns had left in the middle of the night and gone to Baltimore to become the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
But a little bit later in the season, we had a game in Denver, and you know, in the NFL, pass interference is a spot foul, and we had a play at the end of the game. And it was like 50 yards. Well, the defender got beat, so he just reached over and grabbed the guy's arm. Well, I'm the only one that could see it, so I threw my flag. And the field judge came running in there, and he said, "Hey, rookie, what you got?" I said, "I got pass interference." He grabbed his arm. He said, "You better be right." He said, "This is going to be a 50-yard penalty." It was one of the Hail Marys, you know. So that was that's a call that I always remembered early in my career. You know, but I did get it right, so that was even the best part. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you know, I got to ask, though, about this Saints game. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it was the right call? What are you thinking?
Well, you know, we've had the luxury of looking at it in replay. I know those officials that were in the game, and I can tell you, even today, after it's been a couple of weeks, they still feel terrible about it. I mean, there's nothing worse than missing a call and having to live with it. My response to people is, okay, you know, if New Orleans had not turned the ball over a play or two later, you know, when the defender came up and hit the quarterback's arm and he floated that pass out there, but
so
it's the human element of the game.
Yeah.
We're not robots. We're going to miss it. And, you know, people ask me, "You ever missed a call?" Yeah, I have. Not of that magnitude, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah,
how do you fix
mistakes.
that, though? I mean, do you think there needs to be a replay for penalties like that? Like, how do you?
I don't, because there's got to be. It's the human factor in it. Those games can't go on and on and on forever. It's not one call, that's going to be your career. It's a 20 years in the league. I haven't talked to the guy who was specifically involved, although he's a good friend of mine. I have talked to some of those other guys that were on the game.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, what was the feeling like in the locker room? Because as soon as they came in, they knew they'd missed it.
Yeah.
And he said, we were all down.
Yeah.
We were really down about
That's
it.
hard. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Jimbo, thank you so much for coming in. This was such a fun conversation to have with you.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Well,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it, Morgan.
Back to you at the desk.